was fun. I was not happy. Although I kept track of the game.
Yeah, I guess it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, they were down 21 zip at the half. Came back.
Heard there was a bad
I
snap.
guess they muffed
Bad
the snap.
Yeah.
You guys all set? You guys good?
Yep.
Never stopped me before.
You're never all set.
Yeah,
You good? Twyla, you staying with us tonight?
it's just hanging out.
Good evening. I will call the Town Council meeting for November 17th, 2015 to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and thank you very much. We'll start off with the first item, please.
Roll call. Councilor Garrison,
Present.
Councilor Lunt,
Here?
Councilor Mativier,
Here.
Councilor Bickford,
Yeah.
Councilor Crafts,
He's excused tonight.
Councilor Pesky,
Here.
and Councilor Brunel.
Here.
Thank you. We'll start off with the next item, please.
Good news and recognition.
Open the floor for any good news and recognition from the council.
I have something.
Go ahead, Diane.
Twyla would like to thank the anonymous person who sent an edible arrangement the day of voting. And she said that the election clerks really enjoyed the gift, and she just wanted us to go on the record to thank whoever it was that did it. And it was a very nice gesture. That's all I have.
Anything else from the council? All right, see none. Thank you very much for that. You move on to the next item, please.
Public hearings. Downtown Municipal Tax Increment Financing District Development Plan.
Open the floor for any public comment. See none. Tracy will wait till we get on to the actual voting of the item, and then we'll invite you to the podium. And the next item, please.
Mass gathering permit, Lisbon Mill Mall.
Open the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Next item, please.
Itinerant vendor and vitulers license for Fahrenheit 225 LLC.
I'll open the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Next item, please.
Special entertainment permit for Coombs Montfort, number 158.
Open the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Next item, please.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Open the floor for audience participation regarding agenda items. Dot.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm a little concerned when I printed out the items on the agenda tonight. Mass gathering for the Lisbon Mill Mall. It's not a flea market anymore. It's a business, so I'm wondering why they need a mass gathering permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Twyla or Diane, didn't you guys want to address that? Thank you.
The owner of the Lisbon Mill Mall offers space for rent, and he allows vendors to come in and sell their goods there. And so under our itinerant vendor ordinance, we have a category for mass gathering, which is doing itinerant vendor stuff for large numbers of vendors all in one space.
Thank you very much. Move on to the next item, please.
Consent agenda. Order 2015-341 to approve the mass gathering permit for the Lisbon Mill Mall, an itinerant vendor and vitulers license for Fahrenheit 225 LLC, and a liquor license and special entertainment permit for the Coombs Montfort Post 158.
Any objections? Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the permits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Mativier. Any discussion? Greg.
I had one question. Twyla, if they didn't get their mass gathering permit, then each person who came in and bought a table would have to get their own, correct? That's what I thought. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
And the next item, please.
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2015-342, resolution for the Downtown Omnibus Municipal Tax Increment Financing District Development Program.
Tracy?
I'm just going to go over this real quick. Back in March 17th of 2015, Council approved the Lisbon Downtown Omnibus Municipal Tax Increment Financing District and Development Program for the purpose of securing the original assessed value of 2013 because of the new development in the downtown area. With that, the Town of Lisbon received a conditional approval from the Department of Economic and Community Development on March 31st, 2015. The March 17, 2015 original assessed value, the OAV, was $58,617,230. The acreage at that time was 174.85. The development projects and cost estimates had not been completed at that time, with the intent to come back to council with an amended TIF for final approval, which is what you have in front of you. We are now looking at the amendments includes the removal of the hydro facility from the initial program at council's request. We are now at an original assessed value of $36,297,230 of real property. This is not personal property. This is just strictly real property. The amended acreage is 149.02. The development program and projects and cost estimates are included with the amended TIF with a total cost of $9,140,000. Do you have any questions?
Any comments or questions on this? We've crossed all our T's and dotted the I's, correct?
Yes.
All right. Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the TIF,
Amended TIF.
amended TIF.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilor Wundt. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, and your team that you've been working with to get it all done.
Resolution passed, 6-0.
The next item, please.
Order 2015-343, Wellness Grant Award Acceptance.
This is just merely to accept the grant award in the amount of $410 from the Health Trust to encourage wellness programs and to have wellness meetings here for all the employees. And I believe we can apply for a grant every quarter. So we'll probably be coming back to you at least four times a year to apply for wellness grants.
Could you briefly just go over for the public's sake of what you'll be doing with the funds from the wellness grant?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We will put on between 3 and 4 lunch and learn programs where we will have a speaker come in and speak to the employees with a chosen topic, whether it be a pedometer challenge, healthy eating, or just simply doing health screenings. We will have promotional items along with lunch to go with each of the programs we have planned in that month.
Very good.
Also, the employees will be able to track their wellness, whether it be exercising points. There's a lot of different points that you can gather, and then the Health Trust offers different types of awards once you hit your milestones. So they have some pretty neat gifts, and it encourages the employees to be healthy. And I think this is going to be great for everybody, especially with healthcare costs being so high. The more we can promote wellness, the better off everybody's going to be.
Great. Thank you guys for applying for that. Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the wellness grant.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Mativier. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
And the next item, please.
Order 2015-344, Surplus Property Bid Award.
Ryan?
Hello.
Hello.
We finally received some bids on the 2000 GMC Sierra that we've had available for quite some time now. We received 2 bids, one for $650 and one for $800, and we request permission to sell the truck to the high bidder, who was Bruce Morris.
Any comments, questions from council on this? Okay. And we also have other items on here. Do we want to loop all of the 3 requests into one motion, or do we want to do the sale of the truck in one motion and the other request in a different motion? What would the council desire?
Just put them together.
Do you want to go over the other 2 requests?
Yeah, the other 2 items that we had out there was the boom truck and the old sewer cleaning truck. We didn't receive any bids on those based on the minimum bids that we had set the last time, so we just requested to just set it out there as with no minimum bid and get what we can get out of them.
Have you, tried contacting somebody like White and Bradstreet and see if that's a huge parts truck, and I know that the boom truck, the parts in that, because that's the same setup basically as some of the plow trucks, you know.
Right. No, we haven't. I mean, at one time, we actually did try negotiating with some of the vendors that sell that kind of equipment to see, you know, if they'd be interested in purchasing it from us or working something out with us, but there was no interest at the time, but that's certainly something that we can look at.
I'd like to see, at least contact them and see if they're interested.
There's no rush. I mean, at this point, the whole idea is just for us to try to get the stuff out of here, but more than happy to try every avenue that there's available.
I can't remember, so please forgive me, but what was the minimum bid for the sewer cleaning truck?
I think we put it at 10,000.
And what about the boom truck?
That, I believe, was 3 to 5, but again, I don't have that right in front of me, sorry.
No problem. I have it back home. I remember when we went out to purchase a new sewer truck, you had mentioned about a community that expressed interest at one time in the purchase of that truck, and I don't remember what community that was, but apparently they no longer have interest.
We've, not me personally, but the guys at the treatment plant, when they've been out and about, have floated it through some of the communities, one being, I believe, Freeport. I think that we had talked to Booth Bay at one time, but none of those communities have expressed interest. We also tried with Deadberry, it's a company that we use on a regular basis, to see if smaller unit was something that they could use, but didn't have any interest either.
Okay. Alrighty, I would open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the bid for the truck and whatever on the other trucks. I would like to see contact White and Bradstreet, because I do know, especially on that Louisville, that's parts on it. If we had to go buy a motor,
right,
it would be quite expensive.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Bickford to accept the purchase of the 2000 GMC Sierra in the amount of $800 for Bruce Morris, and to move forward with the sewer cleaning truck and the boom truck. Is that correct? Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a Council Mativier seconding. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Order passed,
Thank you, Ryan.
6-0.
And the next item, please.
Order 2015-345, school budget validation referendum schedule.
In our packet, actually, I'm going to read something first. I have a little note here from the clerk. The introduction is, the Deputy Clerk, Jody DeRisco, said the town clerk confirmed the dates in the schedule were in compliance with school statute that were once this schedule is approved, with the council permission, she would like to order ballots be printed using December 15th date. The school budget is adopted for January 12th election date. This time frame works nicely around both holidays and school vacation week. In our packet, we have the proposed school budget validation referendum schedule. It shows with a council vote and public hearing comment on Tuesday, December 15th, with the warrant being posted later, and then the actual referendum vote taking place on Tuesday, January 12th, 2016. I went through the schedule to make sure everything worked, and it looks like it did. I was looking to see if we could push it out even a little farther, and this is really cutting it very close to get it to match state statutes. So I appreciate all the work the staff did to work on this to make sure it works and bring us in compliance with state statute. Anything on this from the council? All right, I would open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to make a school validation referendum schedule and Tyler's school budget validation referendum schedule and her introduction, what is it, council comments, whatever.
Right here. Just to order the.
Ordering the ballots.
Okay. Does that work for you, Twyla? All right, we have a motion from Councilor Bickford. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a second from Councilor Mativier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Order pass 6-0.
And the next item, please.
Other business, town managers report.
I just have a couple of things to report. As you know, we've had a mechanics position open for quite some time, months now, and we have just recently promoted somebody from within, Chris Hart, to take that position. So now we are advertising the 50-50 position, the half sewer and the half public works employee position. So hopefully we'll get somebody that will be interested in that position. Jody went to some training today on the Accountable Care Act and the reporting requirements that we're going to have to do in January for W-2 reporting. And I am pleased to report that our software vendor, Trio, they're way ahead of the curve on this, and they have implemented their software that the IRS has accepted. So we're in good shape when we get ready to do the reporting. I think a lot of people are going to be caught by surprise on what they have to do starting in January for the larger employers with 50 or more employees, which we fall into that category. So it's going to be very time consuming. Jody's got a lot of work to do in the computer for the reporting requirements, but we're going to do it and we'll get it right so that we won't get penalized. And I would like to wish everybody a great Thanksgiving.
Very good. Thank you, Diane. Any comments or questions for Diane on that? All right. The next item, please.
Department head oral reports. Dennis Douglas, Code Enforcement Officer's report.
Council?
Good evening.
This is my October monthly report that I submit to you on paper. I did break it down a little bit more for the oral report, but I'll run through this pretty quick, and you can stop me if you have questions along the way. So from a code enforcement standpoint for October, we had 10 building permits issued, one of those for a new single-family home in town, 2 interior remodel additions, 3 garages, and 4 storage sheds. Electrical permits, we had 4 issued, 2 for home generator systems, which has probably been about 7 or 8 in the last month and a half. So that's a pretty popular option right now. 1 garage wiring and a service upgrade. We had 2 plumbing permits for the new home construction internal plumbing, and 6 miscellaneous permits was just for demolition debris, roof shingling primarily. So that's from a permitting standpoint. Code enforcement obviously deals with a lot of other stuff day to day, but it's not really stuff to report on there. It's just daily issues. So outside of that, planning board, trying to give a report for the planning board. So for the month of October and ongoing, working with the town planner on some zoning, land use revisions that we're working on. That's an ongoing process. And we've been working on the medical marijuana land use discussion, I guess, right now. There's a survey out. I think it's been reported, so everybody's aware. Anybody's not aware, it's on SurveyMonkey on our town website. And there's some paper copies at my office out front to the desk, and I think town library, there's a few other places around town that have paper copies as well, but you can go right to the website and take the survey. We encourage everybody to, and that's purely just to get the opinion of the people in town on if they feel we should pursue this, should put ordinances in place, just trying to get a grip on the whole medical marijuana topic, which is happening all over. So that survey is available right now. There have been no cases. Planning board this year has been slower than last year. I think we're carrying 6 cases. 6 cases. We had 15 last year, so that's a good thing. Maybe not to the planning board members, but to me that's a great thing. Not that there isn't a lot to do, but we don't have any actual cases for the month of October.
And just something to kind of, not really October, but just to throw out there for the planning board, trying to give them a little bit of kudos for their hard work over the last couple of years. But a lot of people are aware that we did put a 196 design standards in place. So again, you hear a lot of old timers in town still think everything looks the same and nothing's changed and whatnot. So sometimes you have to kind of point some things out, and then when they see that, they're like, oh, they didn't realize there might be something behind it of why it's that way. So one of the big things for us was the 196 design standards. So essentially everything on the 196 corridor in Lisbon, we put some standards in place for anybody who wants to do development, remodeling existing buildings, things like that. There's some standards that apply, some architectural standards, some landscaping standards, some things to try to help essentially change the appeal of 196. So a good example of that, some of the ones that fell under the new design guidelines, Fern's Collision Center. As you can see, the landscaping and the features of that building. The Aroma Joe's, same thing. The shop, a new one that would just moved from here, that moved up to the other end of Lisbon. They went through that process. And the Dollar General. That's probably the best example, because if you were to drive around other towns and see some of the Dollar Generals, they're square metal boxes, and that's it, because in fairness, they're just maximizing retail space inside. So windows, things like that, takes away from shelf space and retail space. We hit them up with our design guidelines. It was going to be a true test, working with a bigger corporation to see how they handled it. They welcomed it. They actually thanked us for it, and I think the result, as you can see, probably the nicest Dollar General you'll find anywhere around. That's because we had some design standards in place. So a lot of people don't know that connection, so I'm just kind of reporting it so you can see that the idea is, as these things happen over time, we should start seeing some better results. Existing businesses, things like that, you can't go there and tell them they have to change their architecture and stuff. But if they come in to remodel or whatnot, then it kind of gives us that opening to say, this is what we're looking for and how to do it. So, and we hope when you start seeing that the neighbors beside them, they say, hey, maybe I need to put a little landscape in and try to match the Joneses, and we hope to see that grow along 196. So, just thought I'd report that for the planning board. Appeals board, haven't had a case this year. One case this year. One case this year, which is a good thing, again. So there's nothing to report for October on the appeals board side. And something I hadn't included in my reports, just an oversight I'll do from here on out, is the health officer. So my courses are complete, the online stuff's done, just got to take my exam. I was actually going to do it next week, so I should have that by December, which is the deadline at the end of December. So once I have that certification, you'll notify the council and whatnot, and that'll be taken care of. So. On that role, I am starting to get the calls on the health officer side, primarily this time of year. Landlord, tenant, no heat, not supplying heat, not enough heat. That's primarily, I've got probably 3 or 4 of them I've dealt with in the last week or so. So that's going to be a common thing for the next few weeks until everybody gets up to speed on getting their heat going and whatnot. And some air quality issues, some general health-related stuff. A lot of it is tenant-landlord stuff, primarily, is what I get for calls on that. So. Committees, last thing, essentially we have a 196 steering committee that's still ongoing. I'm part of that committee that's just working on the redevelopment of 196, working with the town planner, some various planning board members, and some other public members that are on that committee. And was just put on the firing range ad hoc committee, which is just forming now. So dealing with a number of people and trying to find a common time to get together. Hopefully next week will be our first meeting. So that's what I have.
Very good. Any comments or questions from the council?
Yeah, just so you know, I've had people that have talked to me about the Dollar General and did pick up on that, and they noticed that. I had more than one that had commented on how nice it looked compared to the others that they've seen. So people have seen it and they have noticed it. And I did have a question on the survey. What has that been looking like? Are you getting much input on the survey, or?
I don't want to get it wrong. Maybe Karen can help me. Amanda's kind of spearheading that, the town planner, so she's keeping track of the numbers. I think we were at 30 or 40? Current now, 64?
Yeah.
So, 64.
Because when you did the one before the planning board, there was a pretty good...
Couple hundred, if I remember right. That was the 196 design
96
guidelines
one,
and
right,
standards that
yeah.
we just talked about, yeah.
Right, yep.
So, there was some
Just one.
comments. We had a workshop, and some comments were made that they didn't felt that it wasn't getting out there enough for the workshop we had on
Right.
medical marijuana. But the reality is, I mean, we peppered everywhere we could think of and put it in papers, and there's not much, I don't know how much more you can do. I think you're always going to get that comment. And we actually had somebody in the workshop that came from Wales or something else, said, I saw it, and he came, so he thought it was well publicized. So, we try to get it out there, and so we thought the survey was going to be the best attempt to try to get public to participate, so not coming to the workshop.
Right.
So, we're doing what we can to try to
Good
get the
idea.
biggest response we can and go from there, so.
Yep.
Anything else from the council?
I have a question. What's the situation with the Expert Volvo? I know they put in some trees there where they parked cars over the top of them, and they are all dead from what I saw.
I left that one off my report. Thank you, Mark, for having to bring that one up. Expert Volvo, quite frankly, has been an issue for me. They were the very first one that went through the design guidelines, or maybe it was Ferns, right there. No issue at the time, understood it, great. Didn't follow through on the final landscape plan, and it's been an issue for a while. He put essentially some planters out there that didn't meet the guideline, pulled them, put in what he was supposed to, but put in some very immature blueberry bushes that are right where the plow's going to destroy them this year and whatnot. So it's a little bit of an ongoing issue. Actually, Diane and I have been involved in that one a little bit too with them. But yeah, we've been holding them to the design standards. Planning board's been back out there. We try to follow up on them so they know that, don't agree to it at the planning board stage if you don't want to do it at, when you get the approval. That's the time to discuss it and have an issue with planning board if they're asking for too much. And in that case, we didn't ask for too much at all. I didn't even put it on here because the building itself looks nice, but the landscape is still a little bit of an issue. We didn't ask for much there, as you can see,
right.
but they still minimized it. And
I hope you just continue to follow through on that.
Yep. Yep. The planning board doesn't let me not follow through on that, trust me.
So what is the next step with that building?
Well, he actually conformed when he put the blueberry bushes in, essentially. I mean, if you get down the letter of the law, we require a height on them or something. They're probably not at that height, but he did take the planters out and put those in, so right now he's in compliance. But I know this winter they're gone, and then we'll probably have to this spring just tell him he's going to have to put landscaping back in.
Okay.
So hopefully he does something a little more permanent, so he doesn't have to do that every spring, and but just the nature of that location and where the snow is going to plow and the traffic going by is going to kill a lot of what you put there anyways. It'd be very hard to establish something substantial there, but.
Okay. What about the number of cars there? Isn't there a limit on how many cars are supposed to be there? I mean, every time I go by, there's way more cars in there.
Yeah, that's the other ongoing issue. It was discussed a lot at the planning board level when we approved the project because we were concerned he maximized the building envelope, so we put a limit on how many cars. And for the most part, it's one of those ones that's almost impossible to police. We've called him out on it. He's actually gone there, cleaned them out, put them away. It lasts for a week or two, and but some of it is in the natural course of the day-to-day traffic, deliveries, things like that. There's just no way to police that. So when we're getting reports of cars stacked up there overnight for a long time, then I go back down and we do it again. So yeah, that's a hard one to really police all the time. Yeah.
Anything else? All right, thank you very much. And the next report, please.
David Brooks, Police Chief's report.
Good evening, Chief.
Just want you to know that clock's fast.
Yes.
This meeting's moving way too fast, so I figured an hour will get us through this.
It's not going to last an hour.
Okay. First thing I want to bring up is that under the wellness and healthy food program that George Janosco recommended Benoit's Donuts. He wrote it right here on my notes. Thank you, George. Okay. Now to the not so great news. This report is, as you saw, is primarily statistical. First 10 months of the year, calendar year, and the stats are in some areas extreme. Calls for service in 2015, this is calendar year now, in 2015 have increased 17% compared to the same period in 2014 and 22% compared to the same period of 2013. And again, calls for service are just that. They are both, when the citizen calls in or whatever it may be that's dispatch generated or self-initiated by the officers, all come under calls for service. One aspect of that, animal control, you can see has also experienced quite an increase in 2015, 45% increase year to date compared to 2014 with 512 calls compared to 353 last year. And he also does Sabattis and Bowden, and you can see that, as expected, those numbers are up as well, overall with 36% increase. In October, we did have a good month where we didn't have any residential and commercial burglaries. My November report will end that because we have already in November. But year-to-date for burglaries, motor vehicle burglaries, and larceny, forgery, fraud complaints, you can see there's another steep increase there, 13% of what we experienced last year. One nice figure, I only wish it would remain that way, but historically it doesn't seem to happen, is that in October we had 17 domestic disorderly and disturbance calls. For the year, these numbers have gone down 7.4%. From 262 in 2014 to 244 this year to date. It would be nice if those type of complaints would continue on a downward trend. Unfortunately, child abuse incidents in October, there were 2, and year to date, we've experienced a 35% increase in that. Granted, to some people, the numbers may be small, but you know, we had 20 this time last year. We've had 27 this time this year. That should be 0, but that's not the way it is today. Reported motor vehicle accidents have increased year to date. We've had 234 reported accidents compared to 189 the same time period last year, which is a 23.8% increase. And I thought you'd appreciate my correlation there, is that we've had less motor vehicle stops. Our motor vehicle stops have decreased by 21.5%, and part of the impact on that is we have less patrol, we have less blue lights out there. Blue lights do have a deterrent effect. Some of you with law enforcement background understand that. Other stats in our incident-based reporting system show significant increases in reported. Now again, these are in reported crimes, because I emphasize reported because once the officer gets there, it may not be as it was reported. You know, they may say it was a burglary and it turned out to be a criminal trespass, something like that. Crimes against persons in the IBR system include kidnapping, abduction, rape, forcible fondling, aggravated assault, simple assault, intimidation, and statutory rape. To date, in 2015, we've had 105 crimes against persons, which is an 18% increase over the same period in 2014. Crimes against property include robbery, arson, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft, forgery, fraud, and vandalism. Through October, we've had 219 reported crimes against property, which is a 79.5% increase over the same time period in 2014 when we had 122. And crimes against society include drug violations, porn, prostitution, and weapons law violations. Year to date, we've had 66 reported crimes against society, which is a 32% increase over 2014 when we had 50 at the same time. I want to make a note on the drug violations. I think in one of my earlier monthly reports I highlighted that in 1 week we had 3 heroin overdoses, and now I'm going to report that this past weekend we had a heroin overdose fatal in Lisbon Village. There's a problem out there. Year-to-date drug violations alone, 81.8% increase. And again, these statistics look big because the actual numbers of the incidents, when you go from 11 this time last year to 20 this time this year, that impacts your statistical analysis. But that's what we've had. We had 11 to date last year. We've had 20 to date this year. Same thing with our weapons law violations. We've got a 33% increase there. We're not having a lot, but it's increasing. Everything's increasing. I thought it was going to take an hour, but guess I didn't make it. One of the things we have done on the unobligated time, that seemed to be a key term to some people. One of the things I immediately addressed on that was documentation. Simple documentation of what you're doing will impact unobligated time. And where we used to keep logs in the cruisers and write things down instead of calling it in, things are being called in now. Business property checks it in the nighttime, residential property checks during the daytime, things like that used to be not on the incident system. Those are on the incident system now. So that's helping on the unobligated time. We are looking at how to document the SRO's time. And that's difficult because a lot of the work the SROs are doing, especially in the elementary school, is with elementary school kids. And we have to be careful on what we put into the incident. So we are still trying to work out a way to come up with a plan to document the SROs, what they're doing in the schools better than we have been able to right now. Right now, each of them, again, keep their own individual ledger as to what they're doing, and that's why it's not in our incident system. So we're working on these. My goal is to make that unobligated time a negative number. That way, we'll have to come back next year in the budget and say, we've got a problem, we've got to fix this. Sir?
75% of their time, though, belongs to the school, and the school pays for it, so
That's right.
that's their obligated time.
Well,
Watch how
there's
you
a
take the
balance
numbers.
there.
Anything?
Right now, that's all I have. It was heavy stats, I understand that, but I think it was important for you to see it, because that's the year we've had. And 2014 was more than 2013, so we're on a steady uphill grade here.
Any comments or questions for the chief?
Disturbing trends there.
Pardon?
Some disturbing trends there, those increases across the board. I hope we can find some ways to, deal with that in the future.
I have several comments and questions for you, as I'm sure you would expect. The animal control officer, that's really surprising to me that he has seen such a spike in calls. And we don't have DERM anymore, so is this including what we did have for DERM calls?
Last year's numbers included DERM. And also that's all animal, I think I stated that's all animal calls.
For Sabattis and Bowden and Lisbon.
Well, it's all animal calls, okay? The ACO doesn't handle every single animal call. When he's not on duty, patrol will, and then when he comes back, if necessary, he follows up. So that's all animal calls, but again, the bulk of which are handled by ACO, by the humane officer. And I can't explain why there's been such an increase there.
That is a large increase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other question I had was, you had mentioned the calls for service have increased by 17% compared to 2014. And my original question was going to be, is that an increase in traffic stops that your department has been doing? And later on you addressed that report. And I know you would talk about the crimes against persons calls, those type of calls are having increased. But what else is driving the factor here for your calls for service being increased by 17%? Are you other big categories out there that you're dealing with?
As I stated earlier, one of it was improved documentation.
Okay.
We're handling more of or I should say we're documenting more of the time that they're doing something that was back then put on a clipboard or a notebook or something.
All right. And my other question I had was, have your officers been dealing with any issues with the new concealed carry law that went into effect? Have they seen any
Nothing's been brought to my attention to date.
Okay. And just a quick note on the heroin problem, that it's an unfortunate situation that Lisbon had a fatal, but in reality we're not by ourselves, and as we all know, it's all over the news. Heroin is a big thing, and I'll tell you, it's only worse. It's gonna get worse, and other places have it worse than us right now. So
And tonight, the news was meth labs. The
Yep.
state's surpassed the meth lab total
Yep.
this year already, too, from last year, so.
I just hope that the heroin stays away from Lisbon and we don't get infiltrated with it, as some communities are seeing. And I'll just, on an ending note, it's very apparent that we are lucky to have the department that we do here in Lisbon for the police department. I know they go under fire a lot. They don't get a lot of the kudos that they should get, but when an officer isn't there, in 4 minutes, whatever, those are the same people that complain, or they take them under fire complaining about their response time, and always take them under fire for different things. And we are very lucky to have the department that we do, and to be led by Chief Brooks. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chief, one question. As far as the ACO goes, how is it working out with the change in shelters? Is that working out well?
It's been working out great.
I figured since we didn't hear anything bad, it has.
No, that has been working out great. That was good all the way around. But it did get broken into.
Shelter.
The dog stolen came from Lisbon. So, they reminded us of that.
Anything else for the chief? Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item, please.
Department head written reports.
In our package, we have the remainder of the reports. Anything council want to pick out of it? No. Everything I'll pick out will be sent off for questions, but nothing to bring out right now. All right, and the next item, please.
Audience participation and response to new items.
Open the floor for audience participation. Tracy.
I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of good news. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but Lisbon ranks 6 in the 10 most beautiful, charming small towns in Maine.
Yeah.
So, and it was really referenced on the Moxie Festival. Again, the Moxie Festival is volunteers, so we need to continue with the Moxie Festival and continue with volunteers helping out. Also on Saturday, we did the grand opening and ribbon cutting for the Dollar General. And there was probably, I know Roger was there, by 7:30, I think there was about 100 people lined up waiting to get through the doors. So I stopped in yesterday, and they've been pretty much busy all weekend and continue as far as people going in and out of there. So it's been a very good response. Yesterday, we did the shop ribbon cutting. Thank Councilor Brunel for being there, and they're really pleased. In fact, they're ready to kind of expand out and even do another expansion, because right now he's just busting at the seams. So we could see some more future development happening in that area. So, good.
Very good. Thank you, Tracy. All right. Do we have anything else? Dot?
Dorothy Fitzgerald again. I attended the Lisbon Oak Hill football games last Saturday. The first half was dominated by Oak Hill. The second half was dominated by Lisbon. And but for a failed conversion, Lisbon would have won. We lost by just 1 point. Lisbon was well attended. It was a great game. It was a heartbreaker. I mean, it was really, really a heartbreaker. We're fortunate to have such a great team. We're fortunate to have such great coaches, and these kids come up from t-ball and flag football all of the way up through the high school, and we're fortunate to have such great programs. And when these kids are in these sports programs, they're not doing drugs.
Well, you would think
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
I was in that school. I graduated 2012. I know what happens. And I'll tell you, that's not always the case.
True.
Anybody else? Mr. Josko.
George Janosco. I'm not a resident of the town of Lisbon, but do own property at 143 Lisbon Road and 24 Earl Street, and would request permission to speak.
Without objection from the council? Go ahead.
I'm using up the rest of Dave Brooks's hour. He said if I bought the donuts, I could have the rest of his time. There's several things I'd like to touch on this evening. And the first one is, as a property owner on 196, several months ago I came before the council and talked about an issue that we had that the state left. It wasn't a town issue, and I apologize if the town got some negative on it because of trying to fix it and have it open. But the issue has been resolved, so you hear so many people come before you and ask, for something and forget to come back and say thank you. So thank you, Mrs. Barnes and Ryan, for getting that issue resolved. The other thing that I'd like to bring before the council is in the last 2 days, the Moxie store has a for sale sign on it. And I'd like to throw up the thought that the town in some way would name that Anicetti Corner or Frank's Corner or something before Frank turns that property over to a new owner. Frank has done an awful lot in bringing Lisbon, the town of Lisbon, to the forefront in many people's minds, not only locally, but state and even nationally, as you alluded, the people that come to the area. We have Graziano Square up here. Unfortunately, I don't know if that was named while Joe was alive, but it'd be nice that, that something be done down there at Moxie Corner in recognition of Frank's many years. The Anicetti family has owned that property for, I don't think, it was built, I think, in 1901 and 1911 after the fire, but I don't think that how far back they go. The third thing I'd like to address is that as a taxpayer in the town of Lisbon, I know that the elections have been held, and Council Garrison and Council Lunt and Councilman Pesky, that you will all be replaced by new members. And before that happens, I know it's Dylan's Council Pesky's last evening, but I'd like to thank the three of you gentlemen publicly for the many years, Mark, of your service, and Greg of your service, and Dylan, to our town. And I say our town because we've chosen as business people to invest in this community, and we are Lisbon too. We are all Lisbon. There are so many countless ways that you give of your time that people have no clue. The many hours of reading material, the hours of preparation to come before a meeting. And I'd like to take the liberty at this point to address Chairman Pesky, where it is his last meeting. And as a taxpayer and a meeting observer, many times I just come and I sit here and listen. And I'm a set of ears in the community amongst the business community, and we hear so much about what's going on in our community. And I, along with others, have seen you, Councilman Pesky, that you're wise beyond your 22 years. No one's ever 100% right, but no one's ever 100% wrong. The life experience you've encountered thus far made you the good person that you are. Growing up and being brought up by a caring mother and going without the bare essentials at times has made you a very, very unwasteful young man. Your desire to help others was evident through your years, especially at Lisbon High School, serving as the president of your class. And if you were at Lisbon High School graduation, you would with pride, through the tears, say, the Lisbon school system didn't fail. They did a fine job. You look at this young man who stands for the right and the principles of our society. In my opinion, for whatever that's worth, sometimes it's not worth much, you've served this community with the utmost of pride and the long-term good of the town, all while working other jobs, working at Target, becoming a manager, heading up security at the Biddeford Target store, going to college, recently receiving the Determination Award in the law enforcement program, working at the Brackett Funeral Home in Brunswick, dispatching nights in Augusta so you could stay committed to the Lisbon Town Council, your 2 years of taping council meetings before you ever served on the council, and your reference at the last meeting to reading department reports at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning while working in Augusta. So you could pay your way again for your education and learning that a good education doesn't come free. Your great-grandmother taught you, and you shared this at your graduation and at her eulogy. She said, don't stop till your good is better and your better is best. So as you leave this post to apply yourself full-time to your goal of law enforcement at the state level, living out your passion, we can only wonder what wonderful results will continue in your life. Someone who has seen right is right, law is law, wrong is wrong. Who can say they never had a drink till they were 21? With full knowledge, you observe the law. The only thing you tried to do on the council is see that the town was not taken to court, that the role of the town as a legal fiduciary entity was protected. And as chair, you did that well, but as chair, you pay a price. So, Mr. Pesky, as a taxpayer, I thank you for your service to our community, for we all are Lisbon. Tonight and always. Thank you, the council, the old members, for the service and the countless hours, and to the new members who are willing to give countless hours for the good of the whole town. Now, Dylan, as your uncle, I could not be prouder of what your life convictions, and I pray, and I'm sure all here do, that God will continue to bless you and protect you along with all our law enforcement community. May this period of your life be Grammy's good being better, and the rest of your life your better being best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just so you all know, I did not know that was coming tonight. I never know what's going to happen, especially with my family. All right. I appreciate your kind words, Uncle George. Are there any other comments from the public? See none. Move on to the next item, please.
Appointments, none. Council communications.
Start with Councilor Brunel. Nothing. Roger, do you have anything? I'm going to go last. I see you're thinking about something. We'll start over here. Greg, you have anything? Mark.
Are we planning to have a meeting on the 1st?
I was going to bring that up, but we go ahead and we can talk about that now. I will not be here the following week, which is when we were going to have, well, when will really be all of our last meeting to start, the new councils and new elected officials take their oath. We could have a meeting on the 1st if we want. I could make that one. I don't know if we'll have any agenda items for it, or if you guys want to wait. And
My only thought was it makes it easier for that first meeting for the new counselors. You know, if it's they have to come in with 3 new people and they have to pick a chair, and it's easier if they don't have to deal with a whole bunch of stuff they got to deal with. So I was thinking, get the business out of the way for them.
What do we have? By year and see what was left on the agenda.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We have to schedule the meeting tonight, if we're going to do it.
But we can't put the new ones in until the 8th.
Right, the 8th. Right, I know that's what I'm saying. Just thinking, get the
We just don't want
get
too
the
much
business
on
out of the
the
way,
agenda.
right? So that it's an easy night for the 8th when they're going to have,
we're not going to have a lot of stuff in. I wouldn't imagine we'd have a lot of stuff anyways, because Diane is going to be on vacation.
right, yeah.
So, I mean, it's really going to be procedural stuff. We're not going to do any policy or anything like that. But I'm going to be in constant communication with Jody. And if for some reason something comes up and we need to have a meeting, we'll publish it within time. Does that work for the council?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Mark?
Nope.
All right. Eric, you have anything?
Sure. Yeah, I'd also want to thank Greg and Mark and Dylan for their time, and it's been an honor to serve with all of them, and actually hate to see them go. And that was an excellent speech. Thank you for that. There's a lot of things I wanted to say to Dylan, leading us, and but I think he pretty much summed it up, and I thank you for that. And with that being said, there's also, Dylan made comment on the dealing with the school budget. Seems to be a big topic, has been in this town. Seems like it's divided the town. I'm hoping that this year we can work together with the school. We've been unsuccessful doing that. But I just want to, people have come to me and still coming to me and seem to be confused on how this whole thing went about, how the votes went about, and however, the way I can see it, the way I look at it, there was 3 different categories. There was a group of yes that said they agreed with the budget that went forward. Then there was a no vote that said it was too high or it was too low. So I was looking at, there was 3 different categories that was in there, and if I remember right, there was 900 people that voted that they agreed with the budget that went forward. And then on the no, there was 884 that thought that it was too low, that the school should have more money. And then there was 184, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are numbers I'm going off the top of my head, but 184 that said that it was too high, that they thought the school we should take more out of the budget. Going on that, it would appear to me that the town doesn't want to give, going by the majority of the vote, the town doesn't want to give the school more money. I know what we as a council, we somehow got to work together. We got to put this thing behind us. It's pretty clear that the community is split in this, and there's going to have to be some give and take in order for this ever to work. I'm hoping that with the new council members coming on, we'll be able to work with them and get through this and try to put it behind us. We got another year coming. We're going to have to go through this all again, but if it's ever going to work, there's going to have to be some give and take, and we're going to have to work together. I just wanted to put that out there.
Very good. Roger, do you have anything?
Yeah, Mark, you and me have served quite a while together. And it's been an honor to serve with you. I've already told Greg it's been an honor to serve with him. And I hope that we all will stay in touch. If you want to come to a council meeting this year and it's snowing out, let me know. I'll come to you. I have no
Let
problem.
me take you up on the offer sometime.
Dylan, I'm the oldest councilman on the board, and when you first came in, you were the youngest one. And we've made a very strong bond with you. And you're not going to be missed because you stop and talk to me all the time, so. It's, and that's what a good friend does. So, I know what your uncle said, you're going to go on to a lot bigger and better things. Just I can't keep going because I'm going to break down.
It's okay. Thank you, Roger. I'll wrap us up this evening. I have a couple things I just want to quickly mention. I will just piggyback on what Councilman Tavia said on the school budget. I'm still receiving phone calls, people asking what is going on with the school budget, where we were, what is the result of the vote, and what is the next step. I simply explain it to them as this. You had a group of people that came out and voted. I'm not considering that group of people to be a special interest group as I have in the past, because it's not a special interest group that came out. We had a general election. We didn't have a June election, a July election, August, September. We had a November election. The group in that November election, although not everyone came out and voted, you can't expect them to, said they don't want to spend more money on the school budget. It is that simple. You had 900 that said yes, 884 that said no. You had 184 that was no too low, and 184 people that said no too high. So no matter what way you look at it, you can construe the numbers all you want to do with them. But you had 900 people that said yes to the school budget, 884 that said no too low. It's very clear there. I won't be sitting here on the council when the vote happens December 15th, but I can assure you that my voice won't go away. It was made clear, the taxes are committed, and I believe this council, still holding the majority, will be able to hold the line and do what is best for our community. I quickly wanted to mention regarding the ribbon cuttings. I heard the ribbon cuttings both went very well. Unfortunately, I was stuck serving the public, not here in Lisbon, so I was not able to attend, unfortunately. But I appreciate everything you've done for Tracy, and for the councilors that are able to attend, and Diane. Ribbon cuttings are a great addition to economic development in Lisbon to show our appreciation for new businesses coming in, and hopefully you'll be busy with ribbon cuttings in the future. The Dollar General is a very nice store. I've been in there several times, and the employees are very fast, fun, and friendly. And Mark, quickly, we talked about the December 1st meeting, or the beginning of December meeting. As it was alluded to earlier this evening, tonight, unless we have a meeting in December, will be my last time here. I will not be able to attend the meeting on December 8th to start the meeting, as I will be away at a conference for in my professional life for work, so I will not be around. I originally was not going to write anything down. I was just going to say a couple of words, but as I started thinking about what I wanted to briefly say, so much came to mind. I had to write something down so I would not stray too far or forget some really important pieces. Now, we as a council over the past 3 years have done a lot. We have changed a lot of things. We've held a lot of people accountable. A lot of people are no longer employed by the town of Lisbon for one reason or another. But we've also changed a lot of policy and ranging from one end of the spectrum to the other. But I didn't want to focus on that tonight. I simply wanted to say thank you, and I'll say in the next following words. Serving on the council since 2012 has been amazing. Has been an amazing experience that I wish everyone could experience. I'd like to start off by thanking 5 groups of people. I want to thank the citizens of District 2 for giving me the opportunity to sit here on the council. While at times it has been extremely difficult and frustrating, it has been well worth every ounce of effort that I have invested in Lisbon to prosper forward. Without the citizens of District 2, I wouldn't be here, and I honor and I've took my position very serious, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you. My fellow councilors, at times we haven't always agreed, and at times none of us have agreed, but it has been an honor to work alongside all of you. At the end of the day, I truly believe that we all have the same end result, goal in mind, but we just don't always agree on how to get there. When I came to the council in 2012, I was a stranger to all 6 councilors, and every councilor was a stranger to me. As I am leaving now, I am proud to call several of you councilors, not fellow councilors, but friends. It has been an honor to serve with you. I know at times and behind the scenes we don't always agree, as much as it appears we agree out here. But at the end of the day, when we walk out, we are all on the same page, and that's really what makes it great to serve with all of you. We're all good sports about it all, and we have fun. And to the staff. While Lisbon has not always been blessed to have an honorable staff, we do now. I consider us lucky here in municipal government to have the honorable, professional employees as we do now. You don't get a lot of credit, but you do get a lot of blame. There is no other way to put it. We are fortunate. I would like to especially thank Twyla, Jody, and Diane. I have truly appreciated everything you have done for me. I know at times it must have felt that no matter what you did, you couldn't satisfy me. But I want you three to know that you have been essential for me while sitting here on the council. I can now lower my minutes using my cell phone, so I won't be calling here so often. I couldn't add you to family and friends because it only takes cell phone numbers. To my employers, at times it has been challenging to make all of the commitments and meetings that I have wanted to due to my professional employment, but I am fortunate to say that my employers have worked with me, so I could commit 100% over the past 3 years to the council and to serve the citizens of Lisbon. When I leave work to do things for the council, someone else is required to fill my void. While it is small, thank you very much to my employers and coworkers. My family. Serving in an elected capacity does not always impact the elected official sitting in the seat, but it also impacts one's family, and mine has not been exempt from the political process. To my family, thank you for your love, support, and compassion over the last 3 years. Last but not least, actually before I get to that portion, I want to thank and welcome the new counselors that will be sitting up here, and thank those counselors that did not win election for investing in Lisbon and willing to commit yourself for 3 years. That says a lot about somebody just to run, because it takes a toll on you, your family, and the commitment is very large. So congratulations to the new elected officials. Last but not least, while I have heard from many people, I'm going to miss watching you on Friday nights. I'm going to miss watching you in action. I hope you run for a political office in the future. I stole one of your campaign signs because I know you're going to be running again. I stole one of your campaign signs to put in my basement. I've heard all kinds of nice words and nice phrases from people over the phone, through voicemail, and through email, or stopping me in the store. But I will leave you with a calling quote from Winston Churchill. Now, this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. It is, perhaps, the end of the beginning. Take from that what you want. There are a lot of things coming down the pipeline that will be coming out shortly. In God I trust. Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas. And with that being said, move on to the next item, please.
Executive session, none. Adjournment, order 2015-346, adjourn to workshop.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the workshop.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Councilor Lunt. Any discussion? All those in favor? And Greg, where are you going? Yes?
I'll be opposed, because
All right, very good.
do it for at least one more.
All right. We'll take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll do the workshop right in here.
Be opposed at least one more. That's where he's got the frickin'
Yes, yeah, that's right in there.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Well, he should have made cards.
Something I must have not have been paying attention to.
Twilight doesn't really have a backup anymore. Like when Beth was here, Twilight did something, Beth would do it. And not only that, she was harping on
Cameras
us
on?
that she's on a 2-year plan for retirement.
She's like Randy, that's why we decide somebody.
7:26.
He's gonna be 62 in the spring. And
All right, we will bring this meeting back together. We are now in the workshop, just so the council knows that we are recording, so this will be part of our regular meeting. It will be aired on Friday, so the public will have an opportunity to hear our discussion. Just to briefly go back a little bit, this came up when we had Manager Olmsted in term, talked about solid waste, different ways to do some things. Council Ward was with us at the time, and this was really a a discussion we had about pay-as-you-throw that was railroaded, basically. You know, we looked at different things real quick, but we didn't really have time to look at it and really cross our T's and dot our I's. So, you know, as we all know, the council didn't move forward with such. But we did commit to looking at it in the future. A standalone committee made up of Councilor Ward, Ryan Layton, Diane Barnes, Councilor Lunt, and myself. We've spent several meetings and hours upon hours together looking at different ways we could look at solid waste and the future of solid waste in Lisbon. Before I turn it over to Ryan and Lisa, we met with Casella Waste Management multiple times to talk with them about different avenues we could take, different routes, pros and cons of each thing. So we did a lot of research here, and with that being said, I'll turn it over to you guys, and you guys can lead the charge, and we'll go from there.
I think it was an interesting committee to be a member of because different members of the committee were coming at the issue from different directions. Is my microphone on?
I'm gonna look.
So my personal. Oh. Okay. All right. Thank you. So my personal background was that I wanted to see more recycling in Lisbon, not just for revenue, but for a healthier town. And I've always recycled, and I find it easy to do. And so I was excited to be a part of the committee from that perspective. But I also joined my fellow councilors at the time in wanting to see if we could find ways to save money for the town of Lisbon. If not produce revenue, then at least some offsetting revenue because of rising costs of operation. Ryan was able to give us consistently the information that we needed about how much things cost to run at the transfer station, how much we pay for certain fees at the transfer station and in recycling and taking care of the town trash. So having said that and having met with the folks from Casella, we tried to look at different options. Should we have pay-as-you-throw, which was the idea that Dale Olmsted had presented us with. And at that time, there was a lot of negative feeling about something like pay-as-you-throw. We heard some negative things from through the news about towns that were doing it that it wasn't working out, or they were spending too much money. We also heard from individuals while we were discussing it on council about how they felt that they shouldn't have to pay for a permit to go to the transfer station and have to pay for a trash bag to bring that trash to the transfer station. So with all that in mind, we did a lot of talking. We talked about a lot of details. Diane and Ryan worked on putting together some numbers. Ryan, I think you came up with these numbers for us. Mm-hmm. We came up with some very interesting numbers, and I think that even I was surprised at the outcome, and we felt it was very positive. Ryan, do you want to go over the numbers themselves?
Sure. The top of the spreadsheet is basically what our current operational budget is to run the solid waste department. Current budget is $477,000, and then we deducted $98,000 roughly for revenues to show a total mill impact, our estimated mill rate impact of $378,500 for basically our solid waste disposal activities, if you will. One of the discussion points was the idea of curbside pickup and how could we get that service into the community. The curbside service was presented to us through two different vendors. One was somewhere over $500,000, and then The other alternative was 350 through Casella, which is why we continued our conversations with them. The $350,000 service basically would get each dwelling residence is a little complicated when you get into multifamily, and then you get your mobile home parks and whatnot. But basically, the $350,000, the general service was 2 carts, 2 64-gallon carts at each residence, 1 for trash and 1 for recyclables. And they would be responsible for coming and picking it up on a weekly basis or whatever. The disposal fees for the refuse that they took still was borne by the community. So we took the $350,000, we added the $189,000 on top of that, which is based on our 7-year average of about 2,700, just under 2,800 tons of household trash at our current rate. And then used to be that the recyclables, there was a market for them, so you wouldn't have to pay to dispose of the recyclables. They would just, you know, the fact that they were, you had to pay, the idea was that it's easy for someone to recycle, they would recycle, and then the companies could take that and they could make some money off it. Now it's not the case. Now they're having to pay to dispose of it. And based on the rates that we received, it's obviously cheaper than trash, but it's still $28. It's $28.50 a ton right now. And based on what we've been doing for the last 7 years from a recycling standpoint, about 390 tons for an estimate. So there's your 11,000 right there. Of the current budget, we still have licenses and fees we'd have to maintain, and we'd still have the landfill that we have to, the closed landfill that we'd have to continue to monitor. So we added those in to give you basically a new budget of about $555,000, which is higher than the current solid waste budget. Basically, the way to make that work would be is if you would have to institute a pay-as-you-throw program as well to basically offset the cost of the curbside pickup. I think the goals or the idea of the committee was that we needed to look at several alternatives: curbside pickup, pay-as-you-throw, and then any other myriad combination. So this kind of alternative shows you basically in a snapshot most of the numbers. You can pick and choose which direction you'd want to go with, but if you were to institute everything, basically, you could potentially realize about a $63,000 savings. But that comes at the expense of closing the transfer station, and then everything else that's not trash or recyclables would be on the property owner or resident to dispose of on their own, basically shifting the responsibility for those items to the people that are utilizing the service versus being borne by the taxpayer. So it's kind of the general overview of the kind of summary of all the alternatives that we kind of looked at, kind of thrown together, and the only way to really make any of it work would be, or to make the curbside part of it work, would be to institute the pay-as-you-throw as well, and closing the transfer station. If you wanted to just look at the possibility of instituting a pay-as-you-throw program, we, based on the numbers that we have, and it's historical, I took the lowest number of the last 13 years of data that we had, the lowest tonnage, and figured out what the pay-as-you-throw revenue potential could be based on $1.50 a bag for a 30-gallon bag, and you end up with around $240,000 of potential revenue. The more and more we've discussed that, the whole idea is if you go to a pay-as-you-throw program, then there'll be, if people have to actually start paying for everything that they put in the bag, they may start sorting out and recycling more, which would then, I mean, again, we still have to pay to dispose of our recyclables, but it's at a much cheaper rate than it is to pay to dispose of the household waste. So pay-as-you-throw could have a couple benefits, one being additional revenue, one being a better recycling rate. But that puts the responsibility on each individual property owner as well, instead of the entire tax base covering what it costs at this point. So I think that pretty much summarizes the kind of the numbers the committee wanted us to put together, and based on the direction of our conversations, and I can help elaborate more if I need to, or whatever you prefer.
One of the one of the really key comments that we heard from the public more than once was that people didn't want to have to pay for their trash bags. So we looked at, and if the public is interested in looking at some websites, one that I liked because it gave a lot of really good information was called Waste Zero. And one of the things that the folks at Waste Zero point out is that if you only charge $1.50 or $1.75 or whatever it is for a trash bag, and many communities charge a lot more than that, but if you only charge that much for the pay-as-you-go bags, then you only pay for the bags that you use. So the argument in favor of it is that a family of 8 will buy more trash bags and help pay more of the tipping fees and the recycling fees, and the single-person home or the person on a fixed income only needs to buy 1 bag a week at $1.50 or $1.75. And so the families, the homes that produce more trash are the ones who are paying for more trash. So it sort of makes it a little more fair that way. We also looked at how much it costs for the bags. They're very inexpensive to purchase. And Diane had experience with pay-as-you-throw in Calais when she lived there. So, you know, she had personal experience with it and explained that the bags, it's not like the little tiny kitchen bags that we use in our kitchen trash cans. They're big bags, 30 gallons, I believe. So that, with the added value of having curbside pickup, which I think is attractive to everyone. And when we first talked with Casella about it, curbside pickup seemed impossibly expensive. The first thing I thought was there's no way we can afford that. But when we looked at it in terms of what's the impact on the mill rate, how are taxpayers going to feel about this, when we got to the bottom line, we recognized a savings. And that was the surprising part. So Ryan and Dylan and Mark and Diane and I have been talking about trash for many months now, so if anyone has any questions.
We're talking trash.
We're talking trash, solid waste.
We'll start off with the council. Do you guys have anything you want to ask or anything about this?
I do. Go ahead.
Go ahead, be my guest.
So if we went this route, say if someone's remodeling their house, they just replace their roof or whatever, I mean, you've got to find a place to get rid of that, correct?
Correct.
Which would be, I mean, where would somebody go to, say, bring a truckload of shingles or?
I think you have the options in Auburn or Topsom, Portland. I mean, you'd call around, find the best rates, same thing that we do right now.
Right.
Most likely MWEC.
And there's nothing wrong with being prepared for residents to ask those questions and being able to make recommendations or you know, hand a list of phone numbers or something like that. It puts the responsibility for the waste on the person who has the waste directly. So, you know, the person who, you know, is, you know, a retired single person living in an apartment and has, you know, 1 bag of trash every 2 weeks kind of thing, isn't paying for somebody else to build a new garage 1 year and put an addition on the house the next year. No matter how much they pay in fees, they're pretty small at the transfer station. So I think that as individuals and residents of the town, that, you know, if you're doing a project that has a lot of waste like that, then that's part of your responsibility as a resident to take care of it. And it's not outrageously expensive. Some people, when they're doing big projects, like big remodeling projects or things like that, they'll get a dumpster for a week or something like that. So when you start thinking about doing a big project like that, that's just part of the list of things to do, is find a place to
with the waste.
Even if it's a small project, though, you still could end up with stuff that you've gotta truck off somewhere.
Right.
I'm just saying, there'll be some people that are not gonna like it.
Somewhere part that you gotta worry about.
It's
Now-
gonna cost somebody something.
Right, and now
And
you
for
said
most-
you did it once before, you guys dealt with that in Callis, the
Yeah,
pay-as-you-throw?
that was already instituted when I went to work. I wasn't
the only
part
other thought
of the
I-
change, but, it does increase your recycling rates
Right.
because
But do you
people
end
don't
up with
wanna pay
trash
for-
out in the woods or down dead-end streets, or people start just throwing stuff out, 'cause
I don't know if they did that when they first instituted the program. Like I say, it was in place when I got over there, but my 7-year term over there, there was very little dumped. I mean, just like you have around here, you've got that.
Curbside service, or they went to? a
No, it
transfer
was just a pay per throw.
Right, so there was a transfer station there.
It was a transfer station, yeah. But what we did while I was over there is we stopped, we had reduced the tipping fees so much that we didn't charge for people to go into the landfill. They still had to get a permit, but we stopped charging for the permit. That was, the balance, is to let the taxpayers know they were doing a good job recycling, because our tipping fees went way down, that we thought we would reward them by not charging for the permit to get in.
could we add another survey on the website with this? Get it out there for the public to see, and see where the people of the town, if they're interested even entertaining something like this?
We can do anything you would like.
We had talked about
and
that.
I mean, we even talked about having a non-binding referendum vote to see what the taxpayers
I
really
think
wanted
that
to
would
do.
be a good idea, just to see where people wanna go
We'd do a
with it.
survey or,
The only concern when you're doing a survey that is prior to an educational piece is that people are responding with a lack of information. And we'd like to make sure that people have the information they need to make the decision that's right for them.
Well, we have the information, we just gotta put it out there.
Put that out.
But this summary here was basically a summary of the alternatives that we looked at in showing how one option would work. The big question is what direction does the council feel comfortable in pursuing? Because this isn't necessarily, I don't know if this is the direction the council, is looking for. Are they looking for, we don't do anything and just institute a pay-as-you-throw program to help offset some of the costs that we have and continue to run the system that we currently have? Is curbside pickup the priority? And if so, how do you pay for curbside pickup? And that's why we've shown this as a option for paying for that. But is curbside pickup the priority for the community, or is the transfer station the way it functions now? And I guess that's kind of where I guess what I'm saying is this is not a recommendation, this is an alternative.
Right.
And we need to know, which direction that we should be trying to fine tune our numbers for.
What we did when we met was we really honed in on the curbside pickup process, for an increased service compared to what we have now. And that's, like as Ryan said, this is an alternative. So we brought all of our research and homework together and of all our meetings to put this together, and there are other options that could happen. But we wanted the council to be familiar with what we found to be what I would consider probably the best option available to us. And the public will now have this, and when the new councilors come on, hopefully the council will have a discussion before the budget season to figure out if they want to do a change to the process for this year or not. But I don't think tonight we don't need to make this decision tonight, because three of us won't be here, so it wouldn't make it be a smart decision to do that. So, are there any other comments, questions from the council on this?
I think before the new council goes forward with it, I'd really recommend they have a couple of, open to the public workshops and the public hearing, and get the public's opinion on it as much as possible before you rush into anything, because sometimes I've really rushed into something and then there's been a backlash against it and people have, overturned it by a referendum, and it's not really the position the council wants to put the town into. So I'd recommend you try to win over the public before you do anything, or if the public is dead set against it, don't, run into the iceberg.
That's that
I do want to
education.
say one thing, Mr. Olmsted brought this up, but we also know that Freeport turned it down, and they turned it down so so drastically that they changed their charter, so it can never happen again.
Well, I think, yeah, and that is, I think that's why we bring up the education point, and having public hearings and workshops is really important to make sure that people have the right information. And a really good example of misinformation is when people say, oh, people are just going to be throwing their trash at the end of dead-end streets and stuff, when statistics have shown that that really does not happen very often.
Asking. I
No,
didn't say it
no, you're,
was.
lots of people in previous meetings have brought it up too. So it's a valid question, and it's something that research has shown doesn't actually happen. It does a little bit, but it happens now. And people have a place to bring their, because they don't want to spend $10 or $15 to buy transfer station stickers.
You will end up with about, if they go with a paper bag, this, and it's proven in this town, you will have a problem for about a year, maybe two. And then it will diminish, because when we went to the permit system, we had a major problem for a couple of years.
Well, I
The
think it just
landowners,
takes,
it does take a
takes
while.
time.
Yeah, it takes time.
But then, and then again, the education, the workshops, the information, we've gathered enough information, I think, to make me realize that it's a good discussion to have, because regardless of whether we do one part or another part of the different ideas that we came up with, that there are ways for the town of Lisbon to both save money and become more efficient, and to help keep those taxes down and increase services. I mean, there's a happy medium in there somewhere, and it just takes talking, I think, with residents and making sure that they know what those options are, and making sure that they're informed decisions when they talk about recycling or whatever, and even Dylan told me that he started recycling at his house, and he was a very staunch non-recycler. But it's not that hard. I didn't like doing it when I first started doing it because I had to, but now I do it because I want to. And I think if you throw your trash at the end of your street, you might as well throw it in your own backyard or in your own living room. And over time, people will realize, I don't want to throw my trash in my living room. But I feel very strongly about recycling, so that's just how I feel. And I think there are other people who feel like I do, just maybe not the majority of people. But there are a lot of advantages for a lot of people, and I just hope that the council can take this information, that citizens can take a look at it too, and think about it just in terms of a positive movement for Lisbon. I just think if people have enough information, they'll make a decision that's good. And I don't think there's one right answer. I think we'll come up with it over time.
Anything else from the council?
No, I would just say, what you have here as far as moving all the way to curbside service, that's a big change. Some people are just going to be against it because it's such a major change. For future workshops, I'd say, lay it out. This is the options. We do just paper throw, and work your way up to curbside. Who knows? Yeah. Because going straight at it with curbside the way this is, you're going to turn a lot of people off right away, because they're just like, no, that's too much of a change. I can't deal with it, because people don't like change. Even if it is good, I agree with paper throw. Not too sure whether I could wrap my head around curbside right at the moment. Not saying it wouldn't happen, but.
We talked about that too, and I was in those discussions. I was the big push or big voice behind saying, from everyone that I've heard from, would not support a pay-as-you-throw program unless they were getting a return in service. And this was a way to have a pay-as-you-throw program, get a returning service that we don't have now, which is appealing to a lot of people, curbside pickup. I have it at my house and it's awesome. And also to have a projected mill rate decrease. So, you know, you're killing a bunch of birds with one stone. Because I know when we talked about it in budget discussions, there's a lot of outpour from the community that I got that was, well, I'm going to pay through for the transfer station through the mill rate for the budget, and I'm going to pay for a trash bag too, so I'm really paying twice. So why don't you just up the mill rate so I don't have to pay to buy trash bags? You know, and that's what I was getting from feedback. So that was, you know, my input on this discussion, and those were reasons why, you know, we looked at this as an alternative. Yeah. Anything else from the council on this? I'd open to the public if anyone has any questions. Mr. Ward.
Alan Ward, Plummer Street. My limited feedback at this point, and I introduced you to that gentleman that day of, the fact is, I've heard through the campaigning, people are out there looking for increased hours at the dump. At this point, I've heard it, and the fact is, we have no evening hours. The gentleman that I introduced you to around 3 o'clock, he's very vehemently on that topic. Likewise, I've heard repeatedly, the fact is, this community does not want a pay-as-you-throw in any shape or form. They will work with the town council to not actually have that be instituted. The alternatives to that, have we looked at anything associated with tonnage fees? I know, like the example you list associated with construction. Construction's always going to be there. Construction's not a bad thing. In that regard, setting a tonnage rate for the guy that actually generates that, whether it be the single homeowner or the guy that actually hires somebody to actually do it, to actually have to pay for the removal, that we actually go that route rather than the pay-as-you-throw. I can list, it used to be in some ways in the neighborhood of $90 a ton if you actually took this stuff through the Lewiston landfill to actually remove it, whether you're the homeowner or you're the one that's hiring it, taking it of that form to get to the same place where you're actually cutting off what your disposal fee is, because you're charging the people that are actually generating this type of material and going to the same place, where the fact is I'm not opposed to discussion associated with the pay-as-you-throw, because I believe it will encourage people to recycle and bring it down. But in that regard, if you're actually also going after not proposing closing the actual solid waste facility, but actually finding a way, okay, we know mixed wood is actually costing us this, you set the rate associated with that. If you've got tar materials for roofing, sheetrock, and all the different commodities, finding out what they are and going accordingly. Lewiston went in a structure, I can't say I'd advocate it, seeing that I administer some of these things, but they actually have a punch pass system where they actually have 20 ton that they're allowed to get for $20 on a single home unit. You're allowed 2 of those within a year, so in that regard, you get 40 ton that you actually can remove for the $40. And then there's certain things that they won't take, so you're paying the per tonnage fee associated with that. Coming to the same place to keep that cost down and spread it out amongst the people that are actually generating. Thank you.
Those are some good points. Thank you.
We need
Doc?
scales to do that, though.
Yeah, me and Diane talked about scales
We did.
today.
Yeah, I agree.
But the gypsum has got a perfectly set of scales down there not being used. Maybe we could look into buying them.
I think we'd have to also keep in mind that we don't have a landfill. Everything has to be removed. So I think that was a part of one of our early discussions.
Doc?
I come at this through a landlord's perspective. Talk about trashing town councilors, well, people love to trash landlords. I had a tenant that I've been managing a house for several years. Tenant moved out after 3 years and removed not only the batteries from the smoke detectors, took them off in the wall. And if there was ever a fire, who would be blamed but the landlord? I have a multifamily. One of my tenants is a Section 8. I've been trying to educate her for a year on recycling. She still does not get it. She puts plastic bags in for recycling, and I've given them information, and she does not get it. Another tenant, I gave a new tenant information on recycling, and she doesn't bother. I'm at the transfer station once or twice a week. I take my own trash, and I take my tenant's trash. And the homeowners get recycling because it's their taxes. Okay, you mentioned taxes. There's no guarantee that taxes are not going to go up, and people are not going to understand that it's because of recycling or not. Pay for bag, I can't see tenants doing it. I just can't see them paying, and their trash is going to accumulate, and the landlords are going to get blamed. So I bring it from another, I'm not saying I'm against paying for the bag. If it would reduce my taxes, great. But tenants on the big multifamilies, the Section 8 multifamilies, I'm assuming that they and I know that they have the big trash bins up, and I don't know if they bring them to Lisbon or take them elsewhere. But tenants just don't get recycling. They don't understand the concept, and they just don't.
I'm a tenant.
What?
I am a tenant. I
Well,
totally get it.
I
I think there are other people like me out there.
You're
No.
too nice, Doc, because I was a tenant my first year here, and my landlord never took my trash.
I'm totally responsible
Well,
for
I
my
take
trash.
it now because I can't afford to have it picked up. I used to, but I just can't afford it any longer, so I do it. And the 30-gallon bags, I have one tenant, my new tenant, that just does not recycle, and I gave her the information, but
Maybe you need a new
some of
tenant.
her bags are so heavy that I have all I can do to take, I have to tip her trash
Dot.
can over to,
Dot, maybe
Yeah.
you should tell them that trash is not included. Try that.
I would have to agree with him on that one, Doc.
All right.
and then.
Move on.
You're too
I,
nice, Doc.
no. I do it because I do not want the trash to accumulate. After one of the fires, the serious fires in Portland, on TV, one of the tenants was saying how horrible his landlord was and blah, 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 blah. And it showed his living room. And Portland has trash pickup, I'm assuming. I don't know if they have to pay for their bags.
Yep.
His living room was packed full of trash bags, and he was blaming the landlord when all he has to do is take it out of his apartment and put it on the curbside.
Dot, I'm not going to stop you because I'm not the chair, but you're carrying on about something that,
I'm trying to give examples.
all right, we understand that, Dot.
Examples.
Thank you.
Tenants don't get it.
Thank you.
Some do.
Yeah, Ellen.
Landlords are going to be victimized in a very different avenue. I come from this from Lewiston's perspective. When the tenant moves out, the Dots of the world are going to end up with that mess that's actually going to have to be dealt with. That's going to be because when they will leave everything of non-value behind, and you will have that kind of mess. And it will be a potential issue that will have to involve Dennis with the code enforcement as well. That's the only point that I want to bring up on that, because it's very real playing out in Lewiston right now.
That is a very real point. I've dealt with that myself when my parents had a house that they rented out for years, and then the nice educated people who lived there moved out, and the entire basement was filled with newspapers, and so we had to take about 4 truckloads of newspapers to the dump when we cleaned out that house.
I think that's a good example of the fact that it already happens. It's not going to change it in one direction or another, I'm guessing.
Is there anybody else before we end this? No? As the landlord thing is very real, very serious. My parents are landlords. They own many places they rent out. And for example, the last place that people were evicted from, they took 29 dumping trailer loads of trash out of it to the dump. You know, it's not Lisbon dump. They are in Litchfield, but it happens all the time, unfortunately. And Dot, I think what Larry's shirt says, you can't fix stupid. I don't think you're going to fix that person that won't understand recycling. So, with that being said, Lisa, Ryan, do you have anything else before we end for the night?
No, I think we had some good input, and we'll just wait to hear, what what direction council wants to go into, and, I'm personally advocating for, moving into, educating, having either workshops or, public meetings, so that people can learn more, ask questions, and maybe have some professionals there who can answer them, the way we did on a smaller scale.
I might suggest even try different venues too, like say the library, use that space and do it in an evening down there. People in the falls that might not get down to this end of town, things like that, or at the school, and, do it kind of combined with the PTA and kids to get a crowd that might not come out for a town meeting like this.
And you can pass out stuff down at the transfer station too on a Saturday as people are coming in.
Last one will be Larry. He just raised his hand, then we'll end for the night.
Dylan, thank you for recognizing my T-shirts.
You're welcome.
Larry Fillmore, Lisbon. The town sends out tax bills. Why can't we include literature in there trying to educate the people? Also, put it on the website. Okay, I don't know how many people actually view that. I know I do. But I know that it might raise the postage a little bit, but it'll get the message out to the people. And I think you need to educate the people before we need to ask them to vote on something. Mm-hmm. And the last thing, and I said it a million times, if you're going to require the people to vote on anything, it has to be binding. No binding, okay, is a waste of non-binding is a waste of time for the people, okay, for the town, for printing them. It's a waste of time. If you're not going to do or make it binding, it's a waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And that will conclude us for this evening, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Sign the materials.
Thanks for the excellent spreadsheets.
Still reminded people told me they didn't
back
vote
over
for the
here.
town garage because
I
they didn't
know.
know enough about it.
I know, I
So,
heard the same thing. Want to go through it real quick, make sure we have 4 and everything?
This is gonna be my eyes.
Yes, they know.
Feedback from voters on non-binding questions.
That they don't like them? There should be some more.
I have a bunch of them.
You do that have already been signed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
There's more than one person and they vote by ballot, and
secret
that's how
ballot.
the mayor is elected.
Well, I think, yeah, there you go. First impression.